Ever since the historic ceremony that marked its opening in 1925, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem has been central to the life of the Jewish Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael and to the country as a whole. This has remained true and is still true today. It is no surprise, therefore, that the university and its work have been reflected in many films made during the last 75 years. Israel and the Hebrew University have grown, suffered, and been triumphant together. The scenes you are about to see are all preserved at the Hebrew University's Steven Spielberg Jewish Film Archive, and are just some of the hundreds that depict almost every aspect of the university throughout its eventful existence.
Bonim is the sun's build, and Bendorf's camera visited many construction sites. The Hebrew University of Jerusalem was then beginning to take shape. The intensive work up on Mount Scopus culminated in a memorable opening ceremony on the 1st of April 1925. Chaim Weizmann recalled,
"Control of traffic was a rather alarming problem, for the number of cars traveling to and fro was a record for Jerusalem at that time.
Weizmann was to remember not only the glory of the occasion.
The only place where we could stage the ceremony was the natural amphitheatre facing a deep wadi on the northeast slope of Scopus. Everything was rather rough and ready, but the setting had such natural beauty that no art could have improved on it. To face the audience in this amphitheatre, the platform had to be on a bridge over the wadi itself. The gorge was deep, sheer and rocky. The bridge was an improvised wooden affair which inspired, in me at least, little confidence. My blood ran cold at the thought that something might give way at the crucial moment. Lord Balfour's appearance set off a tremendous ovation, which was hushed into complete stillness as he took his place on the platform.
Behold, here is our renewed glory. Below, the old city, the city of graves and tombstones. Above, our national library, the treasure of Jewish spirit. There are more than 4 million books in this library. The book of Israel shall no longer wander from land to land. It shall not be as fuel in the hands of our foes. The Hebrew University, a haven for the sages and scholars of Israel. Here they come, the students of Israel. From all 4 corners of the earth, they flock here to learn and to instruct. Now, after 2,000 years of wandering in the Galut, has our Torah returned to its place of origin, Jerusalem.
If you could stand on Mount Scopus and look upon these beautiful buildings, tears would come to your eyes as they have to those of refugee professors from older universities now destroyed. Tears of pride and hope, yes, and of true joy. You would understand in your very heart and mind what the Hebrew University means, not only to Zion, not only to Palestine, but to all humanity. Cannot hope to capture the present importance, the future greatness of the Hebrew University. But it may give you a somewhat clearer idea of what the university is doing and why it so richly merits your ever-continuing support. Symbolic of its spirit is the flag that flies over the university, the flag that proudly flaunts the Star of David. People from all over the world visit the campus of the Hebrew University high on Mount Scopus, a center of culture and learning open to every race and creed. Center of the university is the imposing Jewish National and Hebrew University Library, largest in the Middle East, containing among other treasures Dr. Albert Einstein's original manuscript on the theory of relativity. This beautiful arcade connects the library with the Rosenblum building, home of the Faculty of Humanities, including the Institute of Jewish Studies, School of Oriental Studies, Department of Education and the Liberal Arts. This is the Museum of Jewish Antiquities. It will be the true treasure chest of Jewish history and of the Near East. Already it is filled with rare and precious relics of Jewish culture. Across the road is the Institute of Mathematics, bearing the great name of Einstein, and another building named in honor of this famous scientist, the Einstein Institute of Physics. Next door is the School of Chemistry, named for the world-famous chemist Chaim Weizmann. But buildings alone cannot make a university. A university is only as great as the men who teach there. And Hebrew University has some of the world's greatest teachers, like Professor Sukenik, director of the Museum of Jewish Antiquities, shown here explaining to his students the so-called tombs of the kings of Jerusalem. The tombs, in fact, do not contain the remains of the Davidic kings, but the bodies of Queen Helena of Etiopine and her son Isaacus, and other members of a family of pagan Greeks who converted to Judaism and came to live in Palestine. Professor Sukenik is standing on top of the monumental staircase, pointing out the two cisterns, which provide water for ritual purposes and for needy Jerusalemites during dry summers. Students from time to time supplement their classroom studies with field trips in the Judean desert. Here's a group with the eminent Professor Picard of the Department of Geology. It was Professor Picard who discovered water in many an arid Jewish colony, enabling the colonists to irrigate their land, to turn desert into arable land and live. No doubt these students will use their geologic knowledge to similar public good throughout the arid regions of the Near East. This is just one example of what the Hebrew University means in terms of practical benefit to the community of Palestine. Here's another example, the Botanical Garden, named for Joseph Montague Lambour to enable its gorgeous planting across from the university library. Here the students learn the botany of the country they are going to cultivate under such teachers as Dr. Dohari, who tells them of such famed biblical plants as the cedars of Lebanon, not to mention all the other flora, the knowledge of which will help them make the wilderness of Zion bloom with new beauty. And here is yet another case where higher education is of direct use to these young men and women who are to continue the building of a new country in an old and arid land. The late Dr. Aharoni used the university zoo to teach his class in zoology. Professor Aharoni, in his younger years, was a famous hunter and observer of animal life in the Palestinian desert, and was one of the great experts on fauna of the Near East. Many a young farmer will thank him for teaching animal culture that makes the difference between want and plenty. This leads naturally to the Hebrew University School of Agriculture. The importance of this school to a community who must wrest a living from the soil cannot be overemphasized. These agricultural students spend 1 year in practical field work, then 2 years in basic natural sciences in the Faculty of Sciences in Jerusalem. Finally, 2 years in advanced agricultural studies at Rehovot. An important element of agricultural training is the study of meteorology, a department of the university headed by Dr. Ash Bell. Here is an outdoor class with another famous faculty member, Professor Volcanic, Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture. To him, all Zion owes an unending debt of gratitude. for it is he who was the father of scientific agriculture in modern Eretz Israel. The Jewish settlement police are among those who make good use of the university. For like the intellectual magnet it is, this great center of learning draws young minds to study, and older minds to give them of their knowledge and their inspiration. Incidentally, many American students, including veterans studying under the GI Bill of Rights, are now enrolled in the university. Let us just for a moment meet a few of the intellectual life of Hebrew University outside the classroom. Here are Professors Bergman of philosophy and Mayer of archaeology, enjoying a little tete-a-tete between classes. Here is Professor Norman Bentwich, who believes that the university was conceived by Weizmann as a citadel of the Jewish spirit. Today it exists in order to save and renew and deepen the Jewish mind. And here is Martin Buber, who holds the chair of social philosophy, one of the most distinguished Jewish thinkers and scholars of our time. And Professor Moshe Weizmann, brother of Chaim Weizmann, and himself a great chemist. Professor Franco, victim of the 1939 Italian racial laws against scholars. Another pioneer, the university's rector, Michael Fekete, professor of mathematics. Dr. Judah L. Magnus, president of Hebrew University, great soul leader who left his pulpit in New York Temple Emmanuel to pioneer this seat of learning. Truly, these men are members of a faculty of which any university could well be proud. The university authorities believe wholeheartedly in the old adage of a healthy mind and a healthy body. The amphitheater is the university and communal center of musical and recreational activities. Here you see a group of Yemenite dancers rehearsing.
We had planned it differently up there on Mount Scopus. The books we needed, the instruments were there. The sight of that house on the hill was a regret and a challenge. The truth of a university was not in those buildings beyond our reach. It was in the minds and the hearts of those who came crowding into our halls. It was hard, and it still is. Space is needed. Equipment is needed. Our laboratories and classrooms are not the finest in the world, but yet fine work is being done in them. I came to my first lecture in exile with a greater understanding than ever before. I knew where I was. I knew what I was doing. At the head of this classroom, I stood in the middle of a land. Talking to this class, I talked to a people, new faces that forever remained the same. And that is what I believe we celebrate today, at this 25th anniversary. The will of a people to exist, to create, to enlighten. To destroy such a people, one must cut the cord that binds them together. That cord is the unbroken continuity of Jewish thought and teaching. It was never cut. In every exile there were schools to teach and students to learn. The Hebrew University is the last link forged in our generation in this long chain of schools. Here in Israel, it remains the guardian of the continuing tradition of Jewish learning, as eternal as the people whose historic need gave it birth. The loom of history weaves a timeless tapestry, and our Hebrew University is part of the past as well as the present and the future of the Jewish people. For throughout history, the Word hath maintained this people, and the people now have created a place to maintain the Word.
The time is 7:30 in the morning. This space you are looking at is called Jaffa Road. It is one of the main streets of Jerusalem, Israel. At this time, on almost every morning except the Sabbath day, the streets of Jerusalem are filled with people hurrying to begin the day's work. 4,000 of these, about one in every 20, are in a way related. They start out every morning at 7:30 for one or the other of 100 buildings that are part of a whole, so they are related in time and space. They come from every part of Israel, before that from every part of the world. They are men and women, they are Jew and Muslim and Christian, they are young and old. And yet they are related one to the other, and related also to the 50 buildings to which they hurry. For the 4,000 men and women and the buildings to which they go are the students, the staff, and the 100 houses of the Hebrew University. And this film, being a factual presentation of the ordinary days of these men and women, and of the work they do, and the places in which they do it, this film is, you might say, a study in the relativity of time, space, and the Hebrew University. This is a documentary. The people shown are students and staff members of the university. The places shown are those in which the university works. The heart of a university is its library, the assembled knowledge of the past. Our library was lying useless on Mount Scopus. The first task was to create a new one. We have recreated the Jewish National and University Library, and there is drama and bitter justice in the library's rebirth, for it began with the harsh, unwitting gift of Adolf Hitler. In 1938, Hitler took the matches away from his Nazi book burners and set them to work collecting books, Jewish books. From every conquered city in which the stormtroopers set their bloody heels, he was going to collect the greatest library of Judaica in the world. As the war was ending, the university sent its librarians to search the ashes of the Nazis' European fortress for the stolen books of the looted libraries, to dig 60,000 books out of the cellars of Poland, 20,000 out of the warehouses of the IG Farben industry, manufacturers of poison gas for the chambers of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. 190,000 books, the remnants of the looted libraries of Europe's slaughtered Jewry. And so it happens that a man with the concentration camp number still on his arm can sit in the book bindery of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, safe at last in his own land, and open a book and be carried back in time to the horrors from which he was delivered.
To the new campus of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, still in the process of building, came distinguished visitors, like archaeologist and soldier Dr. Yigal Yadin and French ambassador Monsieur Pierre Gilbert, headed by President Ben-Zvi, to see 8 outstanding men of letters, science, and public affairs receive honorary doctorates of the Hebrew University. Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion is the most popular of the new doctors of philosophy, honored by the university in the presence of a distinguished audience.
time is April 24th, 1958, and the place, the new sports stadium of the Hebrew University, scene of a military parade celebrating Israel's 10th anniversary. The roar of tanks fills the air, and the parade starts. President Ben-Zvi and Prime Minister Ben-Gurion review the boys and girls marching past in uniform, so many of them students and future students of the university. Pride and enthusiasm unite the vast crowd of tourists and Israelis, young and old, Western and Oriental in origin. This was April 24th, Independence Day at the Hebrew University. The next day, in the university's Senate room, members of the Board of Governors come together from many countries, assembled to plan the university's growth and future. Here are Edward Gelber of Canada and Israel, Mr. Meron, Dr. Abba Hillel Silva, Professor Norman Bentwich, Dr. George Wise, Chairman of the Board, and President Mazar, as well as Dr. Harry Selden and Samuel Katzin of the United States, Michael Greenblatt and Mrs. Lottie Riven of Canada, and Mrs. Bertha Solomon of South Africa. Dr. John Sherman of Toronto, International President of the American and Canadian Jewish Dental Fraternity, Alpha Omega, presents President Mazar with a $200,000 check towards the building of the new dental school. The university and its friends everywhere had every right to celebrate in pride when on Sunday, April 27th, 3 days after Independence Day, the new campus was formally opened at a ceremony in the Mona Bronfman-Sheckman Amphitheater, cut into the rock of the Judean hills. Standing beside a specially constructed lectern, Prime Minister Ben-Gurion jokingly said, "I assume I have been put in the corner for originally disagreeing with the plan to build the university on this particular spot. I was defeated by the university, and I am happy I was." The burden of his speech was the university's central role in Israel's destiny. Only if we develop our intellectual and spiritual values can our material, our political, and our military achievements endure. Learning is light, says the old Hebrew adage, and the opening of the campus was itself a ceremony of light, while thousands of candles were lit by the audience. The dedication scroll was unrolled and read by a student. In the 10th year of the foundation of the State of Israel, we are assembled in the eternal capital, Jerusalem, to rejoice in the Hebrew University campus, a center of science and learning, of research and teaching. President Mazar, who declared the campus officially open with the concluding words, "The Hebrew University stands firm on its foundations, and its doors are open wide to all who desire to enter it, from near and from far." The beautiful George and Florence Wise Auditorium, presented by the chairman of the Board of Governors and his wife, was opened. The ribbon was cut by Israel's First Lady, Mrs. Rachel Ben-Zvi. Fittingly, the ceremony served as the occasion for the presentation of 3 honorary doctorates to that beloved and scholarly figure, President Ben-Zvi, Professor Selman Waxman, discoverer of streptomycin and Nobel Prize winner, and to the great Hebrew novelist and stylist Shmuel Yosef Agnon. There is a time for work and a time for play. The day after the opening of the campus was Students' Day. It is celebrated every year. Its motto, Kings for a Day, Donkeys all year round. The traditional carnival procession danced its way through the streets of Jerusalem, and this year, for the first time, culminated on the campus. First, a program of entertainment, then spontaneous dancing by the students. And finally, a picnic, a kumsitz they call it locally, complete with bonfires, Turkish coffee, and singing. Students at play, honorary degrees, official dedication and governor's meeting, all of them essential elements in the functioning of the university that trains the teachers and doctors, the lawyers and civil servants, the chemists and nuclear physicists, the biologists and scientific farmers, who make and increasingly will make of Israel a land of learning, life, and light.
This is the famous number 16 bus that winds all over Jerusalem, picking up students and professors and bringing them to the university. Going there is like a daily adventure. It's outside the city proper, past the oldest monastery in Israel, in the Judean hills, and then the brand new campus, which has grown up almost overnight. You look out the window and the place is changing all around you. Not day by day, but hour by hour. It's hard to believe that this was once a big rocky hill, just a chunk of wasteland. workers are new to this country and new to this craft. At the same time, they are learning a new language, Hebrew, and getting used to a different climate. You can't have a campus without a campus green. Looking down here. This campus is somehow too new looking. What it needs is some statues to give it tradition and class. The building for the medical school is still not finished, and so studies have to continue in temporary quarters in town. The food of the university's departments are scattered all over Jerusalem, just any kind of space that could be gotten hold of. All wait for the chance to have buildings on the new campus. Part of the medical school is set up in old offices of Christian missionaries. There is a password around here, Ein Brera, which means no alternative. Medical research goes on whether it's done in a converted cupboard, a washroom, or a corridor. Out there is the first Hebrew university, in the middle of Arab-held territory, not accessible to Jews and crumbling into ruin. Something is doing at the law school. There's a trial on. It was with the establishment of Israel that law came to be studied at the university. Following the mandate, there was an urgent need to quickly provide lawyers, judges, and civil servants with legal training. To provide facilities for research and teaching, the Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University put up the law building.
Hebrew University is the vital center of scientific planning for the nation. This planning leads directly into the Negev. Much of the Hebrew University's most important research is concerned with this bare and desolate land which comprises half of Israel's total territory. Professor Bentor, a Hebrew University geologist, has uncovered valuable minerals in the rock formations and subsoil of the Negev. He teaches his students to recognize where mineral deposits may be found. Training and research begun at the Hebrew University is put to practical use in the Negev. Hebrew University geologists are in great demand as expert advisors in Asian, African, and Western countries. Even the road to the Dead Sea leads to scientific progress. For not even the Dead Sea is so dead that it cannot be made to serve human needs if science and technology are properly applied. Here at the Dead Sea, at the lowest spot on Earth, is one of Israel's richest natural resources, potash. Potash is a vital material for agriculture, and the Dead Sea is one of the few places in the world where it's found in abundance. Modern machinery and methods have been developed to extract and process this valuable substance. The many workers engaged here have come from various lands. As part of the Hebrew University's physiological research program, Dr. Shlomo Samuelov is trying to determine how their health is affected by the tropical climate. They must endure punishing heat. The dry climate is a constant strain on the body. If these stones could speak, they could explain how an ancient people, the Nabateans, built their irrigation systems that lasted for hundreds of years. But the skill of the Nabateans was buried in the dust of time. Now, Professor Evanari, a Hebrew University botanist, is trying to rediscover their methods. He has taken over the archaeological site of a Nabatean farm outside the ruins of Abda to apply ancient practices to Israel's agriculture today. While Professor Evanari seeks to learn the secret of the Nabateans, another Hebrew University scientist, Professor Leo Picard, searches for water in other parts of Israel. On the Hebrew University's agricultural campus at Rehovot, the latest scientific knowledge is applied to Israel's crops to increase the nation's food supply and its export trade. Students, trained as agricultural scientists and researchers, help to develop products that benefit the entire nation. Scientists conduct experiments to produce hardy new plants that will thrive in Israel's wide variety of climates. Fruits and vegetables of the temperate zone coexist alongside those of the tropics. Hebrew University researchers also guard against plant pests and diseases. Professor Tzvi Abidov, head of the Department of Agricultural Entomology, is engaged in combating the Egyptian black scale, an enemy of the country's most important agricultural product, the citrus crop. Recently, a tiny wasp, which kills the black scale, was imported from Hong Kong. The wasp is now an effective weapon in Professor Abidov's fight against the black scale pest. At the Arid Zone Research Institute in Beersheba, Professor Tabor focuses the sun's rays on water, turning it into steam. Israel's biggest natural resource is sunlight. For 9 months of the year, it scorches the land. This device may solve Israel's power shortage, and it may help other countries which are blessed with plenty of sunlight, but are lacking in the conventional sources of power. What has been learned in practice goes back to the Hebrew University for further study and evaluation. There is always a constant interaction between the university and the country, like that between the heart of a man and his body. But today, the influence of the university ranges even beyond Israel's borders. Students come from many lands, including the United States and Canada. Students come from the rising new nations in ever greater numbers to acquire the skills that will lead their people to richer and better lives. As the new Africa strides confidently toward a better day, the Hebrew University helps to train some of its future educators and scientists. Almost 7,500 students are now enrolled here. In addition to the young people born in Israel, they stem from 70 countries, reflecting the mass immigration into the land. But many more are seeking admission, and the new campus is far from complete. New buildings, classrooms, laboratories are urgently needed. Today, Israel's future greatly depends upon increased support from the Hebrew University's friends abroad. In this adventure of the human spirit, much has been done, but much remains to be done.
Of course, you could take the tour. It's free. It goes like this. Ladies and gentlemen, here on this historic plateau, we are on the site of the Hadassah Hebrew University Medical Center. We lie 6 miles from the heart of the city of Jerusalem, of which we are a part. Below is the ancient town of Ein Karem. But as you came up on the bus, you saw the thriving new communities, the new homes and streets and roads. You saw our schools, also new, and already bursting at the seams. You exclaimed at our American-style supermarkets. A mixed blessing, believe me. All this is being magnetized into our area because the medical center is a hub of healing, teaching, and research, around which settlers can build their lives with confidence. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
When do you open up the center?
We opened officially on June 6, 1961, even before building was completed, because we were so crucially needed here. Now you are standing before a 500-bed hospital which has 2 sections, one radial, the other rectangular. From all rooms, many opening onto the balconies. There are spectacular views.
Heavens, what's that sound?
That sound, friends, comes from the Mother and Child Pavilion, which is nearing completion. Over there. It has 57 beds, but 64 bassinets. You look surprised, madame?
64 bassinets for only 57 beds? Why?
Well, these hefty workers could really explain it better than I, madame. You see, in this building, we are preparing for lots of twins and lots of triplets, and maybe even quadruplets or 2. That's national policy.
Oh, I see. Obey the commandments. Be fruitful and multiply.
Also still going up is the new building for the medical school, opened in 1949, which will move over from Jerusalem town soon, we hope. We have already graduated a whole generation of physicians. We've taken about 100 students annually. 75 medical, 25 pharmacy, 25 dental. Right next to it, our dental school is going up, from which will come the only pain in the jaw we Israelis shall willingly accept. In the court over there, having their pictures taken, is a newly arrived group of medical colleagues from Africa, one of many being trained by Israel and Hadassah in the healing arts, which, like disease, know no boundaries of race or creed.
And as the people of the book became, through statehood, the people of the land, the government of Israel made available 125 acres for the construction of a new university city in Jerusalem. Today, the Hebrew University has well over 8,000 students enrolled on its 4 campuses. This is the Jerusalem campus. Situated in the lofty Judean hills at Ein Karem near Jerusalem is the new medical center, location of the Hadassah Hospital, the University Medical School, and the School of Dentistry. At Rehovot, the university's agricultural center trains the nation's agronomists and those who will teach at agricultural schools throughout Israel. The new Tel Aviv branch of the Hebrew University houses facilities for the teaching of law, social science, and economics. Over 8,000 students and their teachers, almost 10 times the population on the Mount Scopus premises.